Hello, everybody, and welcome to Aligned Life with Anna. If we haven't met yet, hi, I'm Anna Long-Stokes. I'm an energy-informed mental health therapist as well as a clairvoyant. And in today's episode, I wanted to talk about alignment and the three things that are likely keeping you from living your most aligned life. What is an aligned life? Well, I find that when a lot of people seek either a clairvoyant reading or therapy in the first place, there is some type of tension or friction in their life that they are hoping to receive guidance around so that they can feel like they are living with more flow. So flow is a good expression I use to touch base with myself and my clients about, are we living an aligned life or not? If you feel like your life is in flow, there's not a lot of tension coming up. And I mean tension between behaviors and beliefs, tension between relationships that maybe used to work and aren't working anymore. If there isn't a lot of tension, then you're likely living an aligned life. If you feel fulfilled and things are in flow and in movement, you're likely living in alignment. But for people who come see me, that's usually not the case. That's why they sought me out. So in today's video, I just wanted to talk about some of the kind of big three things that I see preventing people from living their most aligned life right here, right now, in the present moment. So the first reason that people often are experiencing misalignment is that they are operating off of an outdated belief system. Belief systems are they're kind of like how we see the world, how we operate in the world. So belief systems could be ones that we've inherited, essentially, not like genetically, but like inherited through behavior from religion, family, being affiliated with a certain organization or political group, even a societal group, gender. So some of these are the ways we move through the world, kind of the ideas and beliefs that we've taken in, mostly based off of the system around us, some type of system that we are in, even if it's a family system. So what can happen over time is that these beliefs can be really ingrained in us, but on a more subtle level, something in us is evolving or shifting away from a belief system. And so we might feel a tension between like our thoughts and actions and the way we've always operated. And it can be really hard for us even to see this within ourselves. Like sometimes there is some big break and someone's like, oh my gosh, I had this belief and it no longer aligns and da 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 da, and they're able to see it. But a lot of people, sometimes it takes having an objective observer from the outside say, hey, it looks like this is a belief system you've been operating from. And that doesn't seem to be working for you anymore because it sounds like what you're feeling is XYZ. So this could be even like values, like maybe you were part of a religious organization for a long time that had a certain set of values. And then as you grew and evolved, you found that your personal values were different and maybe even contradictory from the ones that you had just been sort of handed by organization or group. So again, belief systems really shape how we show up in the world, how we see the world. And so if you're finding that you're experiencing some tension, feeling out of alignment, I think you should ask yourself the question of, are there any outdated beliefs that maybe no longer align, and just get real with yourself. If you don't have a therapist to turn to or a clairvoyant who could help you look at those things, maybe even a close friend who's maybe a little more on the outside, and they can kind of look at you and go, it seems like you've been going through this evolution, and maybe this over here doesn't feel aligned anymore. And maybe they can help you see that, because sometimes when we're in the system, when we're in the belief, it's so hard to see that. But if you can somehow get that awareness for yourself, it can make the process of accepting and transitioning into the new updated version of yourself, the aligned version of yourself, it can make it so much easier. So another thing that might be preventing you from living your most aligned life is that you are kind of stuck in a trap of seeking validation from people who aren't you. Like instead of turning inwards to find your own answers, whether that be you have a knowingness or an inner voice, or you feel it in your heart space, or you feel it in your gut, whatever that more intuitive connection with yourself feels like. If you're sort of ignoring all of those signs in your body and you're instead turning to a friend, a colleague, a family member, a pastor, and you're saying, "Hey, tell me what to do. Hey, what do you think of this? Hey, I was thinking of doing this, but I wanted to run this by you first." The reality is nobody knows what's best for you but you, even your therapist. As a therapist, I'm often just handing that control back to my clients and saying, "What do you think you should do?" Because I don't have their answers. I can give you a more objective view of the situation scenario I see playing out. Maybe if we have a history and I've seen you play these situations out again and again, I can bring that to your awareness. But ultimately, what you do, I can never tell you what to do. That is up to you. I'm not here to program people. And hopefully you're not here to be programmed. So, the question I have for you, if you feel like you're getting sort of lost in this validation trap or trapped in this cycle of seeking validation outside yourself, is to really become clear on who those key people are that you often hand your power over to, that you often seek validation from, and just really ask yourself, like, why you're doing that and is that working for you anymore? Um, there are people who I often turn to when I'm confused. My mother, my father, my partner. They're people I run stuff by, but very often, at the time I bring them into the picture, I have a pretty clear idea of the decision that I'm going to make, and it's more just kind of sharing and making sure there's not any super red flags. But I believe that we are all here on this planet to live a path for ourselves, a very specific path that we came here to live. And our inner knowing is the most effective guide for how to be on our path. And when we're on our path, we feel aligned. So if you're not aligned and you're seeking validation from people outside you, it might be that they have all the best intentions in the world, but they are pulling you off track. So ask yourself, who do I give my power over to? Who do I seek validation from? And how has that worked for me? Is that working for me? And just try to be honest with yourself about that. So another area where I see a misalignment happening is when you have for it could be so many reasons you have changed in your identity. You have had almost an identity or an ego death. And what I mean by that is, um, we often, in these human bodies here, we often give ourselves these identities and we are like, I am a woman. I am a mental health therapist. I live in Oregon. I like this. I eat this. I believe in this. So we kind of create these identities, and maybe for a while that identity really feels aligned, but then something shifts in your life and you feel like that person that you have been isn't who you are anymore. After I went through kind of many years of clairvoyant training and I blew through tons of energy, I ended up releasing a lot of these key identity aspects of myself that for so long I thought were me, but they were actually kind of just energies in my space. And I remember probably around the 4-year mark of kind of more intensively doing clairvoyant work, I felt like, who am I? Like, who am I anymore? And that was kind of a lonely period because there was this gap between who I had been and kind of who I was becoming. But it was almost like a reset button where I knew that how I saw myself and how I was showing up in the world before wasn't who I was anymore. But I still was figuring out who I was. That was a very uncomfortable period. There was also, it kind of coincided with a big ego identity death I had when I sold my company. I had been a CEO, I had been a boss, I had been successful, created financial freedom for myself. And when I sold that business, like some of my ideas of who I was and the self-worth I had attached to those, they kind of went out the window and it felt very destabilizing. So when I see this impacting life alignment for people, what it can look like is for a long time, you were this identity, and then enough has shifted in your life, whether it happened quickly or it took a little while. You now no longer see yourself as that same person, but maybe you're fighting the transition. So you feel like you're almost kind of coming up against this tension or resistance between like the old you and the new you. So how do we know if this is what's leading to our misalignment? I encourage you to ask yourself the question, am I the same person I was, you know, a year ago? Am I the same person I was 2 years ago? Like, ask yourself that question and listen to your inner knowing about that. This one might seem more obvious to you. I know people who are like married, super Christian families, had a part-time job at a hobby store, and then like they kind of had something blow up or blow open in their lives where they like got a divorce, quit going to church, like went back to school, like everything that you could think of in their life shifted. And then they were trying to play catch up with like, who's this new identity? Who am I? So ask yourself, like, am I who I was X amount of time ago? And just get an inner knowing about that. Yes, I am a different person. Or no, actually, I haven't had this happen and I still feel like I'm who I've always been. But if you are one of the people who feels like, yes, I am a different person, the next question to ask yourself is, have I allowed myself to embrace this new identity? Have I allowed myself to just let the old me fall away so that I can make space for the new evolution that I'm creating? Can I just give it more space? Can I make more space for it? Because if you're kind of holding space, energetic space for who you were for all those years, you're not making space for the new you to come in because you're so associated with you in the past that you're not able to live you in the present and kind of create the future you that would be more aligned. So that's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in, checking it out. I am a totally new channel. So if you would just take a moment, if you like this, if you could maybe subscribe and share anything you want to share in the comments. I'm going to also put a link below in the description to a free self-healing 101 masterclass that I've created for people who are just looking to kind of move energy in their space and work the energy of self-healing on a new level. These are my two favorite tools to give myself a healing every day, especially in the world that we're living in, where I just find it can be harder and harder to feel good and get my space, especially if I have been like spending too much time scrolling or on the news. So if you feel like you resonate with that, definitely check out my free self-healing 101 masterclass. All right, everybody, I'll see you next week. Bye.